Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shah. Now, these descendants of slaves in America, they cannot get it through their thick skulls what condition they are in. I heard one of these women, she congratulating the so-called white man for being all nicey and gentle and kind and compassionate and all this kind of stuff. Like these people's track record of wickedness ain't obvious and ain't documented through all the documentation. And so, being under their rulership, they feel like just because these people is acting nice, they done got out of captivity. They not slaves anymore. That's what she said. We're not slaves anymore. Something got to be wrong with these people. But they don't understand that slavery is deeper than what she talking about. The real definition of slavery is captivity. Is when somebody capture you and take you away from your homeland. See, that's the main definition. And so it was prophesied that the nation of Israel was going to be taken from their homeland in Deuteronomy 28 and 68. That's why I say, you shall see it no more again. It's talking about you're going to be taken away from your homeland, and you're going to be bondman and bondwoman slaves in somebody else's land. You see? And these women and these Negroes who got their little house and job, they on the plantation working, they got their little house, they got their little car, and some little dollar bills with the so-called white man face on it. They think that they free. They don't understand. They still in the captivity. That's why Baruch said, we are yet this day in our captivity, because you are still in the land that you were sent to. When you go to Deuteronomy 28:25, it said, you shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. That's how we got into all these kingdoms on the slave ship. It's not only America, but we was took into all the kingdoms of the earth. And so these individuals don't understand that they still in slavery. Now, when you go to Ezekiel, it said something that made it just so obvious. Ezekiel, I think chapter 7, where it talks about the food that we'll be eating. Let's see here. Ezekiel chapter 7, or was it chapter 4? Yeah, it was chapter 4, 13. It say, and the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whether I will drive them. So when they get off the slave ship, they was going to be eating defiled bread. Now, when you look at the bread, it might look pretty, but the bread is nothing but sugar. Sugar and whatever else they add with that. Bread supposed to be brown, rice supposed to be brown, sugar supposed to be brown. But see, these people done defiled the bread and all the food, the GMOs. They done defiled all the food that we eat. The meat, you don't know if the meat is meat. They putting human sacrifice babies in the McDonald's meat. They doing all kind of wickedness with the food that we eating. They got fruits and vegetables, GMO fruits and vegetables, giving it to animals. The animals are having all kind of problems, big sores with pus coming out of them because they eating the fruit from some old laboratory that's been genetically modified. So it ain't but one people that done went into somebody else's homeland and live amongst the Gentiles or live amongst other nations, forced to live amongst other nations in captivity, that's eating the foul bread. And God drove us into these lands where we have to depend on these people. We'll be at 5. Let me get that in Deuteronomy 28. Is the reason that we going to have to eat the foul bread, because we got to go to them. Deuteronomy 28 and 48, it says, therefore thou shalt serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against you. See, the Lord sent the so-called white man to be over us. And it says, in hunger. See, in hunger, you got to go to the so-called white man. And in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. See, he sent the nation to be over us, and we got to go to them for everything. The main thing that's going wrong in the so-called black, African American, whatever they want to call themselves, Jamaican, Haitian, Puerto Rican, the main thing that's going on in the community of these peoples is that they don't have businesses. They don't have stores. They don't have farms. That's the main complaint that these people is having. We need to get together and have our own business and have our own stores and do our own thing. Yeah, because you ain't doing it. That's why you got to get together and say that, because you ain't doing it. The only thing you can have is a salon and a barbershop. That is not nothing for survival. That's some BS business. So outside of that, you got to go to the white man for your food and your drink and your clothes and your crops. You don't even have land. So you is in captivity. You can't separate yourself from your peoples, because that's what these women mainly want to do. And the Negroes too. You can't separate yourself from the peoples and go marry some white woman and got you some money. And you out of slavery now. No, you still connected to your family. You and your family is in captivity. You could take it back to 1843, and you on the plantation living in the big house, and the master done made you his wife or the head Negro in charge. You still in captivity, man. That's his house, that's his crops and land and the food coming off of there. You ain't got no power, man. He can even let you build your own house in the back, big old house behind his house. You still on his land, and you still was brought there in chains in captivity. People talking about we not slaves no more. Just because you ain't picking cotton, it's worse slavery. You go back into that time, them people was provided for. They had houses, and the slave, they was eating off the slave master's table directly. But see, now you got to go to the grocery store. If you don't get no job, you just on the corner, man, sleeping on the side of the road, sleeping on the park bench. It's worse nowadays. At least you had a wooden floor that you can throw some hay on or some grass on and sleep on top of that. You ain't even got that now. You don't even got slave quarters. The slaves weren't sleeping outside, man. They weren't sleeping in their car. You is still in captivity. But see, these people get money and they get comfortable and think that they done got out of captivity. Captivity ain't affecting them no more. Slavery is over. We got our own big house now, and you got to go to the grocery store to get food, man. You're going to die in that big house if you don't get no food. Within 3 or 4 days, you're going to drop dead. When that grocery store closed, you ain't got water coming through that water faucet, you going to drop dead in 3 and 4 days in that big house and with that big car. And you guess who you got to go to get that food? The so-called white man. You is in captivity. You is a slave. See, these people don't understand the situation that they're in. But I just want to make that through the Spirit. All praise to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kakadash, double honor to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.